Welcome to Lockercode, where football is not just fantasy, but our reality, where you can express your excitement, your tensions, or even frustrations about the games, your team, your league, and performances of players. Let's go! Yo, welcome back. What's going on, y'all boys?
What's good, man? What's good? Yeah, man, we got the legend on tonight.
Got legend, pepper shrimp being made for the weekend. Like, what's good?
It's draft weekend. You gotta understand it's draft weekend. I'm cooking on Friday. The draft is on Saturday. So you know how that
is. Yeah. I need everybody in the league to be messed up on that pepper shrimp so they can make those errors. That's what I need a couple of these running backs to slide to me in the second round.
They will be
pepper shrimp them up.
Hopefully the people that I'm drafting with, I can just send them a quick text and just like, yo, remember what I did for you last night, yo. Go ahead and leave.
Every year you do
Go
it.
ahead. Go ahead and leave.
Yo,
so
every year he does it, and every year there's a crazy trade that goes down, and every year there's a dude that's out of the league.
Listen to this.
Same dude too. Same dude that made the trade. That was his last year in the league with us. Every year. Thank God we got another commissioner for the last 2 years, boy. Because whatever was happening under that administration.
Y'all funny. But yeah, man, NFF draft is this Saturday. Yeah. Looking forward to that. I haven't put my draft board together yet. I've been super busy with the 9 to 5 and other crap. But I get it done though. I'll be ready. I'll be ready before 7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock, right?
Yeah, 7 o'clock. I'll be ready before 7 o'clock. That's all that's going to be my focus on Saturday is fantasy football and putting together my draft board. Draft board is
ready for you boys, man.
Draft board's already done for me too.
I know. You guys are proactive. Pretty proactive on this thing. I'm like hey man, I'm the procrastinator. I'll take it.
Draft board is done. Conversations is the only thing that's happening right now between league managers, back and forth throughout the whole week of what you're going to do with your pick, and hopes everybody slides to him so he can get a certain pick. Talking about who's dropped out, who's not in, who's injured. It's going to be a great weekend, man. And
I don't think anybody
better Sunday.
What's funny? Only the first pick I kind of sure by, and I'm not even 100%. It's like a 60-40. Every other pick after that, I have no clue what's going to happen.
That's how it's supposed to be.
I know. But people asking me, who am I going to pick? I'm like, no, it all depends on the 6 people that's picking in front of me. I don't know who I'm going to pick. So I can tell you, I'm going to pick Derrick Henry. Derrick.
You got 6 picks.
Exactly. So I know who I would like to pick, but who I would like to pick doesn't make any difference. You know what I mean? But
just like number 2 is MITH right there, man. I can't choose nothing until I figure out what's 1 and 2 is done. The only problem
you're 3,
and I'm 3.
And you're 3. MITH, who you picking, man? Say for instance, Henry go with the first. Who you picking? Nobody can pick before you, bro.
Yeah,
so
that's understood. The only thing that's confirmed is that I don't want Henry.
Yeah. Oh well, then that's it. So Henry's not available for you. So who you get then?
I mean, I'm going back and forth. I got a couple decisions here, right. So I'm considering 4 players.
God damn, man. 4 players.
Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor.
What the number 2? Aaron Jones? Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. Jonathan Taylor.
So Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor. Zeke, I'm assuming.
Kamara and Saquon.
Oh, Saquon.
Yeah, I'm an Eagles fan. I cannot draft Zeke in the
he
first.
can't do that. I told him. Jay was like, yo, he's going to get Zeke. And I'm like, yo, he ain't touching Zeke. I don't care if Zeke was the number one running back for the last 3 years. He ain't touching Zeke. It's a good feeling. Can
you imagine?
I can't touch
Zeke playing against the Eagles.
Oh.
Zeke playing against the Eagles. Yeah. The Eagle, all right, he needs one touchdown to win, right? Right? And he only has Zeke going, right? You need one touchdown to win. You only got Zeke going, but that one touchdown is going to make Philadelphia lose. What do you do? What do you wait for? What do you ask God for?
To get into the playoffs.
Man, what do you ask God to do, man? What do you ask God for, man? Are you going to ask God for
a championship win, or you want God to give you that playoff berth?
Look, man. The team would be better, but I only get one chance. The fantasy gods.
Championship win it is. Playoff.
Oh, man.
Really got another year next year.
Yep.
I'll tell y'all what y'all need next year.
I'm closer to the championship than they are.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll take this one for Philly.
Yeah.
This trophy is dedicated to Philly.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win, man.
Yo,
it's a win-win.
We got a great show today, man. DFS strategies of this show, man. It's going to be awesome. But let's go wrap it up with news first and kind of get with that, man. So what you got with news?
What we're going to – yeah, let's go.
What you got with news, man? What you got with news?
So news today is only going to talk about the injuries, man. Like, we're only going to talk about injuries because, this is draft season. Everybody doing draft between this weekend is probably the highest draft weekend ever. So we're just going to talk about a couple of injuries, make those in front of your mind when you're doing the draft and what you need to do and so forth. So the first one I have is Marvin Jones, AC joint sprain. They say they expect him to play week 1, but if he's not playing, how do you guys feel drafting Marvin Jones?
I mean, he'll be a late, if I draft him, he's late pick for me. So realistically, he wouldn't be in my starting lineup. So if he's out for a week, 2 weeks, I mean, it doesn't affect me at all. He wouldn't be starting 4 receivers or, depending on how I do my picks, 2 receivers at all. So it doesn't affect me. And plus, it's Lawrence out there starting now. We just found out Lawrence is the one that's actually starting.
Really?
Offensive line. I mean, I don't really see a big benefit in that.
Lawrence, that was never in question.
It was never.
But,
I think it was a question once we found, obviously you're going to talk about the ATN situation, but once we found out ATN, to me that was questionable because their offensive line is not that tight-knit right now. So me personally, as a head coach, I'm like, I don't have ATN. I don't have a good line. I don't mind letting whatchamacallit play for 6 games, 8 games, and get murdered and let Lawrence kind of learn the system. Now you're putting Lawrence in a situation that he may or may not get murdered.
Listen, Minshew. I didn't think Minshew was ever going to start. That's just I don't care what the coach says or what any beat writer says. I know Trevor Lawrence was going to start. That was a given. I wasn't even
start, but I don't think that it makes sense personally. But look at Burrow's situation. Yeah, I mean. Yeah,
I know. All right, these are quick hitters. MITH. Tyrell Williams not practice groin injury. This dude is injured every year. Was that a prospect for you? Looking at him in the later rounds. Now that he's injured, are you looking at anybody else on the Lions, or what are you doing there?
Yeah, no. Tyrell was never a draft target for me. Just that player that spends 2 weeks on your bench before you throw him back to the waiver wire. But the Lions, all this does is continue to solidify the rookie Amon-Ra, with these targets, TJ Hawkinson and the run game.
Yeah.
This team has no wide receivers. I mean, we're gonna get that Quintez Cephas game, and it's gonna wow everyone, and then we'll never talk about that guy again.
Yeah.
But
What about Perriman?
What about Perriman?
I mean, he's a really expensive Tyrell.
Something happened?
Yeah, that guy is injured pretty often as well.
Perriman is a good wide receiver coach.
All right. All right. Let's talk about a player that I think we all look at or potentially, could draft. Noah Fant dealing with a leg issue. They just named the starter as being what's his name today?
Teddy.
Right.
Teddy
Bridgewater. So do you think now that Noah Fant, dealing with a leg injury, they don't want to disclose? Are you guys still high? Like, is he still a tight end one? Will you still drop him as a tight end one, or you will just wait to see what's happening?
It makes me look at Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton more. Because you're taking Noah Fant on there. They do have a good tight end, a second good tight end, but not like Noah. But you're going to look at Bridgewater throwing that ball more to Jerry Jeudy. As you've seen in the in preseason, Jerry was looking good, or at least everybody else was making him look good. But he was looking good, and Bridgewater looked good with him. So it's more of that Jerry Jeudy show and maybe Cortland Sutton show out there. KJ Hamler, maybe. I know one of the league managers picked him up. I just don't see them running a 3 wide receiver set right now. I see them running a 2 wide receiver set.
Yeah, so Fant, I still think, if you really think about it, there's very few tight ends that will catch the ball and take it the distance.
Yep.
Very few in the NFL. So that's the upside we talk about with this guy. I understand that he is coming in hurt, but, he's not the only one. Some of these guys hide their injuries. So, it's being reported, so that way maybe he just reported it to the team. But I don't think this is going to be an issue that affects the overall player as far as his upside. And, we speak about Jerry Jeudy is going to get those shorter area passes, but Noah Fant can do the same thing. He might even be faster than Jeudy. So,
I don't know about all that. But what I'm saying is that if Noah is not playing or in the game, right, you're looking at Jerry Jeudy, that ball is going to go to Jerry Jeudy more. It's going to go to the receivers, not going to the tight end is what I'm saying. More to the to the receivers and the 2 running backs that they got is what I'm saying. Hopefully he gets back. All right. His leg gets back 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever the case is, because we don't know what the serious of the injury is, though.
Okay. All right, let's talk about a player that is on everybody's radar. Julio Jones participated in Titans practice, the walkthrough, and individual drills. How do y'all feel about Julio Jones on Titans and what's been happening? Because dude hasn't been healthy, really.
When has he?
I love an offense that condenses who the targets are. Like Minnesota, it's 2 guys. The Titans, this is 2 guys, yeah. Nice. Julio Jones, as long as he stays healthy, there's no guarantee. Like, you can't just assume injury risk for a player like that. But as long as he stays healthy, it's a guaranteed 1,000 yards and however many touchdowns he touches. But
as long as throw the ball.
Yeah, exactly. So now you have 2 red zone threats. It's pick your poison. I think Julio Jones gives that one last hurrah, and maybe this is his last season.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, he's injured, but that's Julio. You take those risks, and it's a good risk, to be honest with you. But like I said, it's really when I think about Matt Ryan, and I see Matt Ryan in that pocket, I see the ball going 50 yards. Every time I see Matt Ryan. I don't see short passes when Matt Ryan throws. I always see 50-yard passes.
Ryan Tannehill, you mean?
I'm talking about Matt Ryan. I see deep passes with Matt Ryan. I don't see short passes with Matt Ryan a lot. I don't see deep passes with Ryan Tannehill. I don't see the average of 50 yards on a pass throw. I see an average like 15 to 20 yards. So how are you going to get that ball to Julio? Well, Julio's a great slant guy, but that does not affect the injury portion of it. But I do want to see what the production is going to be with him with the Titans.
Where do you feel comfortable? Each of you guys, where do you feel comfortable drafting Julio?
3rd round.
5th round.
he won't be there.
He won't.
So.
But that's why my comfortability
Third is kind of high. Third is kind of high for me, man.
High, and fifth round is right there where I want him, but he ain't gonna be there.
Yeah, he ain't gonna be there. All right. Man. All right. Next player that we want to talk about and all the ramification or the fantasy impact is Jaguars running back Travis Etienne suffered Liz Frank foot injury and will undergo further testing and surgery, possible surgery, and he's done for the season. They placed him on the IR. So, what does this mean for the Jaguar offense? What does this mean for James Robinson? And where would you draft James Robinson?
It's a funny conversation. I mean, we were just talking about that on a conference call like 2 days ago. I mean, we hear people are in hopes that he drops to the third round. His stock is increasing right now. I see him being a second round guy, especially in our league, right? I don't see him slide into the third round or fourth round. In any league, I think he's a second round guy, right? I don't see him sliding anywhere else.
Yeah, the thing with James Robinson is you play that either or exercise and you go down the list of players, yep. James Robinson or CEH, then we have a problem.
Yep.
So CEH is a second round pick. Yep. That's exactly where he would be going.
That's where he'd be going. And you break it down because everybody after CEH, and even CEH, you're looking like, I can he'll probably slide to a third rounder, right? But he shouldn't go any further.
CEH is a third rounder for me.
Yeah, he is, but he shouldn't go any further than that. And to me, James Robinson would be just ahead of CEH. So he would have to go second round. Because everybody else after CEH is fourth, fifth round guys at that point. And you're reaching if you do it.
The dead zone.
Yeah, it's just the dead zone.
So let me ask you this. I understand what you guys are saying. You're basing it on last year's production, and they have the same offensive line as such. But he was still able to produce over 1,400 yards.
Different coach.
But it seems like this coaching regime doesn't really like it.
Nope.
Which is why they draft a running back in the first round. I understand that running back went down. Don't you think that Carlos Hyde is going to have some say in regards to that?
I do. MITH disagrees. We had this conversation.
I disagree.
I agree with it. I see a guy. It's a different offense, different coaching. I see a guy that they didn't want. They wanted a new running back, and that's why they got a new running back. And I was surprised. To be honest, I was going to be surprised if ATN did not get injured. I wouldn't be surprised if James Robinson would have been traded, in 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now. But now, like I said, unless that head coach or that offense is going to change to James Robinson's way of running the ball, I don't think he's going to be a benefit. I don't think he's going to do what he did last year.
What about you, MITH?
Yeah, I think that line is better than it gets credit for.
But it's the same exact line from last year.
Yeah, exactly. So that line is better than it gets credit for, and that's my standing. This is the same exact line he totaled all those yards under, and he gave us that breakout performance. Why are we just expecting for it to go different? Yeah, I understand systems matter, but the guy behind you matters too, and Carlos Hyde is not the guy. Carlos Hyde will never catch a pass, and that's what Etienne was supposed to be for. Now there's no Etienne. There's only one natural pass catcher, and he proved it last season. So whether or not they like him, they have to use him in the game plan to fit it. And he's been in camp the entire time. He knows the plays.
Wait, hold up. I don't know if you've been watching the preseason game, but they've been using Carlos Hyde on third downs a lot, catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, that is for pass protection. Maybe they just don't trust him in pass protection. But in the same situation, those guys are on the field. Well, the Jaguars' offense as a whole is on the field a lot more than other teams' first offense. So by the time it gets to a guy like Carlos Hyde, yes, he's in the backfield with Trevor Lawrence, but how many series did they miss and not accomplish anything before it got to him being on the field for third down?
Yeah.
So, you look at those things. Some coaches don't play their best players because they don't want to risk
get no injuries. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not reading too much into the third down thing. It's just when James Robinson played the snaps, he got the carries, he touched the ball. And those are the things that will not change at the beginning of the preseason game.
Okay. All right, I hear you. Well, you guys mentioned Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that you will draft James Robinson just before Clyde. Well, Clyde left the last preseason game with an ankle injury. How do you guys feel about Clyde? Do you put him down on your draft board? Do you keep him where he is? Or are you looking at his competition like Darrell Williams and McKinnon, or what?
Nope. If he's available in the third round, you pick him. I'm not about Jared McKinnon, or that he's gonna get injured anyway. So it's not the original D Williams; it's a new D Williams. So there's nothing to worry about with him because the original D Williams is in Chicago. So I'm worrying about Darrell. The original D Williams would have been an issue. With Darrell, they're gonna get little catches here and there. McKinnon, like I said, I don't think he's gonna stay throughout the whole season, even if he's the third running back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Last but not least, so we all know Henderson. Cam Akers went down. Henderson was named as going to be that bell cow running back for the Rams. Now he suffered a hand injury, and they came. Today they traded for Sony Michel from New England. So let's unravel all of that. Like, what does that mean for Henderson? Is Henderson still high on your board? He went down, and what? If he went down, what round?
I'm gonna let MITH answer that question, but I just want to say one thing. For Sony to be getting on that plane, man, I'm scared to run in that offense right now, yo. 2 of your players is already injured. Like, I don't want to be the third, dude. I'm scared getting off the plane for the Rams probably playing, yo. Like, this is definitely. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, the thing with it is, man, it's a dumb injury, so minor. Like, come on.
Not minor enough to trade us 4th round, though.
No, they definitely no. It was a 5th and 6th, but yes, it is. It's just this guy showing you he's injury prone. You better prepare.
Yeah.
So that's what the whole trade is about. Yeah. But as far as the players, we all know Sony Michel was not draftable anyway.
Yeah.
But the way the backfields in the NFL are shaping up, some teams did need help, and this was somebody that was targeting at the end of drafts, even if he was not draftable in most leagues. Now, with this situation, I mean, he's going to assume first and second down carries. And we all know how valuable those are. And the Rams, this is why I love the Rams backfield. 58 touchdowns in the last 3 years. They average almost 20 touchdowns a year. So whoever is back there, either the passing down back or the first and second down back, those guys are going to produce at RB3 level. Yes. So neither one of them are their priority.
Yep. So
we're talking guys that are maybe at the end of we're looking at 26, 27-ish. When you're that far, you're an RB3 and you're probably not reliable, but they could probably both be flexes throughout the season.
All right, so I'm going to give you 3 names and tell me you rank these 3 names. Xavier Jones, Sony Michel, Henderson. How would you rank them? Like, how do you think they should come off draft boards?
I believe Sony Michel should be the first coming off draft boards.
Easy.
And that's because he can also catch the pass. They don't like throwing to the running back in New England, but we know this guy could catch the pass. That's why he was a first round pick. He does have the same degenerative knee situation that Gurley had, so this may be his last season. We might be looking for some late season fatigue, tired legs like Gurley had. but he can carry a 3-down workload. And by the time he's tired, you're going to be in the playoffs. You don't have to worry about that. And Darrell Henderson is.
Gurley didn't have he didn't have tired legs. He had bad legs.
No,
you got bad legs when they tell you to stop at the 1 yard line and you lean forward. You lean to the side but still end up going forward. That's bad legs, bro.
Oh man. Yeah. But yeah, after that, definitely Darrell Henderson is a flex candidate. So we're looking at it towards the end of the RB3. Xavier Jones, I wouldn't even draft him. Look at the guy. There's nobody else. I heard this report that there was a massive gap between Henderson and those other two guys, Jake Funk and Xavier Jones. It wasn't even close.
And I think Funk was ahead of Jones anyway, so there's really no choice of getting him anyway. So
yeah. So this is a situation where they really do not matter. That offense kind of caters to one guy most of the time with a change of pace back. And, I think that's how it will continue.
Yep, I agree with you on that. But when would you draft Henderson?
Henderson? Oh, well, Michelle, then this is somebody that we're looking at in the 5th, 6th round. Yeah. Henderson, then we're looking at in the 9th, 10th, around the same area where people like Jamal Williams go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so let me ask you this: what does this do for Damian Harris and the whole New England backfield, James White, all of them?
Nothing. It's a running back by committee over there, yo. You don't pick any running back out there, and you just watch.
Isn't it crazy?
You watch for L's. That's.
I don't think this trade affected the backfield, but Cam not starting will affect the backfield. Damian Harris, more goal line carries, and he might get, even if he's not the best pass catcher, he's likely going to get more opportunities. He's their first
time for those. Do you think Cam won't start?
No, Cam's not starting. It's a W for the Dolphins.
I don't believe Cam is starting.
It's a W for the Dolphins week 1. Cam is not starting. Mac Jones is it, and they've already talked about it. They said, Cam not following the COVID the protocols for COVID. I think he's out for right now, so they're moving on with Mac Jones being the starter.
New England owned that.
Yeah.
New England gave him a facility because it thought it was an approved facility, and then it turned out it's not. Mm-hmm. It's not Cam's fault. It's New England's fault.
But the preparation that Cam has to do now, Cam is not with the team.
Yeah. 1 week, though? Yeah. It's only 1 week. You already know the playbook.
Do you know whatchamacallit prepares? He's not worrying about preseason right now.
Listen,
this dude is preparing for the Dolphins.
But what I'm saying is, wait. But what I'm saying, though, listen to what I'm saying. It's 1 week. Cam is not away from the team for 5 days. He still has 2 more weeks before the season opens. It's not like this was the week before the season opener. No. He's going to be back come Monday, and he has 2.5 weeks to get prepared for the Dolphins. So,
I don't know.
You notice other teams have been announcing their starters. New England hasn't. Every other other than the Saints, every other quarterback battle's already decided, right? Everybody know. They already made it clear in Chicago. They already made it clear on San Fran. They already made it clear on the Broncos. They already made it clear everywhere else. The only 2 teams is the Saints and New England that hasn't solidified who to start.
Last year we had that same conversation, right? Last year was the same conversation. Bill Belichick didn't name a starter until the week of the game. So
even though he wasn't picking from much anyway.
Yeah, he wasn't picking from much anyways. We all knew. He just ain't want to say nothing. He wanted to be competitive. So, hey, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I know.
He knew it was going to be Cam.
I know.
So it's going to be the same thing. I personally, I think you start Cam, but I think they're going to start Jones. I think that's who they're going to start. I think they like Mac Jones. Mac Jones is the guy for the type of position or type of quarterback they need to run the offense that they've been running for years. Cam is not that guy.
You agree with that, Smith? Do you think they're starting Jones?
Yeah, I do. I believe they're starting Jones because Cam.
I need them to start Jones.
I honestly think they're gonna start Cam.
Yeah, you go ahead and pick that 15th pick. That 15th.
No, this is why I think they'll start Cam. It's easier to transition from Cam to Jones than to transfer from Jones to Cam.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But I also think if they make that decision of starting Mac Jones, there is no coming back to Cam.
And Cam outplayed Mac Jones.
He did, but
so why would you start Mac Jones?
Because Bill Belichick doesn't care about who outplayed who.
Yes, he does. He does. He said every season you're playing for a spot, regardless how much money you're getting paid, regardless how long you've been on the team and all that. You're playing for a spot every offseason. If Cam outplayed Jones, why would it be Jones being the starter? I don't understand.
Who's the one that can play in the offense that I've been running for the last 30 years?
But this is the thing, though.
Who's the one that can run the offense for the last 30 years? It's Mac Jones.
We'll see. I think
it's Mac Jones.
I'm going to differ. I'm going to differ from you guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to differ from you guys. I think it's Cam. I think Cam is the one starting. I think Cam is the starter for New England, and then they will transition to Jones probably like after Cam throw like 4 interceptions or something.
So we too, Mac Jones is going to start for you. All right.
All right. Let's jump into the show, man.
Let's go into the DFS strategies, man. It's the one thing that we were talking about for the last couple of weeks now, 3-4 weeks, that we wanted to come up with and have a show about this to kind of break down everything and what people need to see and what questions that they may have, or and kind of answer these questions about DFS strategies and how to get into it. So first quarter, we have 21 weeks of fantasy football, right? So one thing that we want to break down is like picking a budget and basically sticking with it for the whole season, right? How do you guys decide on which budget to choose? And how much budget? How much should be in it? I know, Myth, you got an accountant for the year. You go up and talk to your accountant and be like, yo, what's good? This is what I'm trying to drop. So for everybody, let's kind of break down step by step. But how do you decide on what budget you want to decide on to get into DFS?
Well, we all know, this is a game at the end of the day, so you want to make sure that you set real limits to the game or the game will take over you. Yep. The budget is decided before the season even starts, before a dollar leaves my pocket, because that's how I'm going to stay disciplined and remain disciplined throughout these 21 weeks of football. Because if you do not set that budget, 21 weeks is a lot of time to slip up. So we want to make sure we keep that control. You don't add any additional money during the season, because that's how you're going to fall down the rabbit hole. So the way I decide how much is going to be in my bankroll, I kind of project what games I want to play every single week that are absolute must plays. And at that point, that's what my budget consists of on a per week basis.
Yeah, man. Choosing a budget, it's kind of like risk management per se, and it keeps you safe. When I start playing DFS, I can tell you from my demise. When I start playing DFS, I remember setting my first lineup. I lost, obviously, because I was picking names. You know what I mean? I was picking names. Wasn't I didn't do any research or anything like that. And then, I started getting into it, and I was trying to figure out, like, why are the people that are winning. So I started looking at their lineups and all that stuff, and then I started doing my own research. But back to the budgeting thing, this is where the demise starts. So I played my first game, I lost, right? And then I put more money in, and then I start playing games, and I won. And the money that I won, I was like, oh. So say, for instance, I won $100. I don't remember exactly how much I won, but say, for instance, I won $100. And it's like, oh, I can enter more contests with this. So I start like entering more contests and all that stuff. And then what happened is I lost it all. All my winnings are gone. So it's important to have budget, to have a budget. It's important to be disciplined. And that way you control, it's kind of risk management. And that's the only way you can see your gains throughout the season. Because it's a long season. 21 weeks is a long, long, long season. I'm not saying, hey, play if you win something, you can add some money to your budget. You can do that, but at the same time, you need to recognize your winnings and you need to go ahead and take your winnings because that's the only way you can see your profit at the end of the season, not just investing it back into DraftKings, Monkey Knife Fight, or one of these DFS sites and lose it all again because that's pretty stupid.
So what?
Yeah.
For a new party joining in, right? Joining DFS for the first time, or know about DFS and just kind of like, yo, I've never tried it. Let me try it. Or even for the ones that are playing just here and there, what do you think the minimum amount of budget should be to really get into DFS, to really start it?
To be honest with you, you have to look at your own pocket, man. Like, it's what you can afford. What is your disposable income? All right. If your disposable income is, say, for instance, $100 every paycheck, and you get you get paycheck every 2 weeks, right? So that's $200 a month, right? So that $200, obviously, you're gonna need other things that you need to do in your life with your disposable income. So you probably want to do like 40% of your disposable income to designated 30 to 40% designated to DFS. I know I'm using small numbers, but everybody has different income and different income brackets. So, but if you really look at it that way, where you look at your disposable income, you take a percentage of your disposable income and say, yo, this is what I will designate to it. You multiply that by the 21 weeks, and that's really your budget for the season. And if you can afford that, to put that amount of deposit in at once into one of these sites, that's great. And then you just stick to it. Or if you want to do it on a weekly or a monthly basis, you know how much you're going to deposit, you know how much you have the potential to lose, you're minimizing your risk, and you just have fun with it,
Yeah, I completely agree. And guess what? Every week, somebody sponsors a free entry. So if your itch is that bad and you want to stay within budget, play a free entry. It's going to be a limited amount of people can join, but it's better not to spend that money.
Yeah. All right. So what like for instance, would $50 per week be? I know we talked about, hey, what's your, depends on financially what your income is or what your pockets is, but to start off for the first 6 weeks or 8 weeks, for a guy, should 50, should 100? I mean, obviously, I'm not saying go drop 500 for the week each week for on DFS and hopes to win, but should it be like a minimum of, hey, try it out, $20 or $100, $80, $50? What do you think that person should gain add or put in to just kind of get the feel of it?
Well, there's those free contests to practice, right? But if you're really trying to squeeze out a number, if you want to stay within like the beginner levels, there's $1, $2, $5, and $10 contests. So $20 should be able to get you into multiple contests. Now, it's not going to buy you a ticket to the Millie Maker out of $10, but that should be a decent amount, and just set that up for $100. If you turn that $100 into something positive, at that point, if you have the capability, I would increase the cash flow and get some more money in there so that way I can play more contests. But yeah, just go with $100 if you're going to force a number on it. So that way it'll give you enough money to play multiple contests and experience everything on the site.
Mm-hmm. What if, someone just puts in $20 per week and, you start to see that you're losing, right? Should that person increase the amount of money? Should the person not increase it? Should they decrease it? Should they keep it consistent to what their budget was, as we, kind of broke it down and say, hey, listen, if this is what your budget's going to be for the season, that's what it is. Do not increase it. Do not drop it. Like, what's your recommendations on that, on taking L's?
I recommend you stay within your budget. But at the same time, if you're losing, I don't think you losing has anything to do with the budget or the budget influence you losing. If you're losing, what I did when I first started playing DFS, when I realize I can't win, I realize I look at the winning teams in any contest that I'm playing. Like compare my team to the winning team, and you'll see that hey, sometimes it's not the names that win you the contest, right? It's mostly matchups. So you got to understand the matchups. So if you're losing every week, I say you take a moment and do some research. It's not even about the budget and whatever. Before you put your money at risk, I would say do some research. There's a lot of platforms that allow you to give you insight on the DFS side, give you usage and all that stuff. The first couple of contests, as MITH says, go ahead and do some free ones. See what the top five ranking players, what their teams look like. What's different between their team? Why one is number one and why the other is number five? And then you compare your team with them and see where you made your mistakes and all that stuff. Because, like I said, I fell into the trap of like the big names, like popular names and all that stuff. And you can easily fall into that trap and not really looking at the third string wide receiver have a better corner matchup on that team. You know what I mean? Versus your guy that's going to get doubled that you know what I mean? So you have to be disciplined in that sense, and you have to be vulnerable in that sense to where you're going to give up the number one wide receiver on a team to take the second string wide receiver because the second string wide receiver has a better wide receiver cornerback matchup, and that's where your money can you can increase your money. You can get value on your money based on what you paid for that player. You feel me? So it's a lot of things that goes into the budgeting and a lot of things that goes into playing when you're losing. When you lose, take the time to really look at the winning team and see where you went wrong because that could help you for the next game that you play.
What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you are losing consistently, it's never a good idea to increase the amount that you're putting in because then you're just going to make mistakes. If you're being sloppy with your previous budget, you're probably going to do even worse with more money. So, that could cause things to spiral out of control. Just like Ren said, stay consistent with your budget and do research along the way. If you're consistently losing, continue to play, but learn a little bit at a time so that way you're not losing anymore. Just stick to your budget. And that's going to be the best teacher for you. So that way you can figure out why you're losing.
Now, we got, second quarter, we're going to start talking about the platforms. Now, there's so many different platforms out there right now, right? What's your recommendation on which platform? We know FanDuel does half PPR. What do you guys think about FanDuel?
I'll say FanDuel. FanDuel is a platform that really is vanilla. Keeps things pretty simple. It's half-point PPR, so middle of the pack as far as scoring is concerned. But it is a site that won't have a lot of variance compared to DraftKings, which will be discussed later, because it does have milestone bonuses that makes players scoring 99 yards versus 100 yards. We're talking about two different players, wildly two different players. So that's the best thing for FanDuel. And because of that stability and the low variance, it's a very good site for cash games. Cash games referring to playing 50-50s or double ups, where the top 50% recoup their money. Double up, you double your money, but it's not quite the top 50%. It's closer to top 42. Yeah. So that's basically the idea for FanDuel. It also has free contests just like DraftKings, but it's a platform, I would say, for the conservative.
Let's talk about DraftKings then.
DraftKings is more the PPR. It's kind of like the trend that's happening in fantasy right now. It kind of follow that model. If you notice, the majority of leagues in fantasy right now is a 4-point PPR, which is what DraftKings is. A lot of leagues that you play in your yard, your backyard leagues and so forth, allow for bonuses. DraftKings allow for bonuses like 300 passing yards, you get 3 points, right? Over 100 yards, you get points. So there's a lot of bonuses. You get 3 points, I should say. So a lot of bonuses is built into drafting software, and if you're not when you're building your lineup, if you're not thinking about that, you can easily lose as a result of that. Because if you're picking a wide receiver that that's going to get peppered with targets, and they're going to get easily over 100 yards, you're not really sometimes you're not thinking that, hey, that bonus point, that extra 3 points or whatever it is going to be added to that point. So it's really key to really understand each software and what the differences between both are. And there's every software have different things that they try to make themselves unique. So FanDuel make themselves unique with the half point PPR and the no bonuses. DraftKings decided, hey, we're going to make 4 point PPR and a lot of bonuses, which is similar to a majority of the leagues out there. You have, Monkey Knife Fight. There's so many different platforms that you can go on that, will give you different things that appeals to you. And you just got to figure out which one you like the most. You know what I mean? That's how you really choose your platform. Like, Myth will tell you that he likes FanDuel, right? Because he likes certain things that FanDuel does. I will tell you I like DraftKings because I like a lot of things. I like the bonus points. I like the full point PPR and stuff like that because that's what I'm used to. That's most of the leagues that I play in. That's how they're designed. So I kind of know what to expect. And the players that I'm picking on my fantasy team could be the players that I'm looking at in DFS. And I know what points to project for all of these guys. So it's a number of different things that you have to look at when you're choosing what platform you want to go ahead and play on.
You're talking about different multiple platforms here. I know one of the platforms Myth started using was Monkey Knife Fight. So if I want to kind of break down how Monkey Knife Fight is, but also also break down what other both of you guys break down what other platforms there are and what is, I guess, the benefits of each one and which one you would recommend as far as to start with.
Yeah. So Monkey Knife Fight is more of a player props type of site where, it'll give you yardage over under, but it also does fantasy points over under, and it puts a little twist where, you can pick 3 players to score 5 touchdowns. If they all gather together, score 5 touchdowns, you can multiply your money by 10. So it's really just player props. You're picking an over and an under in most cases. So that's a little different from DFS where you're actually picking a player to, their entire score, not just an aspect of the game for them. There's also Stat Hero, which is another site that is more so like DFS, but what's different about it is the lineup before you even enter what's going to compete with them. So they do have survivor pools and things like that. So it is close to DFS. The advantage is you're not going against other people.
You're going against the computer. Yeah,
exactly. So, that's a little twist to the game, but at the end of the day, this all goes back to does the player produce? So that's what's going to help you win.
So yeah, it's a number of different sites. I mean, I'm just gonna name a few, but we're not necessarily gonna go into like Fantasy Draft, which is the old draft website. That was pretty good. You have Daily Numbers. There's another one. Draft Days and another one. Draft Pod is another one. There's so many different kind of BFS sites, but the top 5 I would probably say DraftKings, Monkey Knife Fight, FanDuel, Fantasy Draft. I like Stat Hero. I like how the fact that the team that you're going up against before you draft your team, but yet you still lose.
So I mean, each platform has different values for each player, right? Mm-hmm. How does that work when you're shopping for value based on the numbers? I mean, what is there a minimum or a maximum amount of money that you can have or that you can pick with each player priced out?
I look at all right. So for me, all right. So the two platform that I use the most are DraftKings and FanDuel, right? And I like single game slate. You know what I mean? That's one of the things I've had a lot of success by. But at the same time, what I look at, if I'm high on a player and I'm looking at both platforms, like if I feel like a player just gonna go off, like the matchup is great, you know, based on historical data, they always do good. If they have like a bad corner or something like that, if they, you know what I mean? I look at a number of different things. Whether I even look at weather sometimes, to be honest with you. So, so if I have a player, so say for instance, I'm just going to spitball here. So I have Antonio Brown, right? On DraftKings, Antonio Brown is going for 4,500, right? But I'm high on Antonio Brown based on the research. He's supposed to smash today, and I look at DraftKings, Antonio Brown is going for 4,500. I look at FanDuel, Antonio Brown is going for 6,500. I may incline that week to go ahead and just fill my lineup on DraftKings because of like certain players that I'm looking at. Their values seem like they're down more on DraftKings and so forth. So that's one of the things that I look at, and I will use that to be like a benchmark to see which platform I want to go out, enter a lineup in and so forth.
What about you, man?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. We're using both platforms. Now, I mean, as long as you understand what the platforms are for, like you shouldn't have an issue. FanDuel being for cash games and DraftKings being for, those guaranteed prize pools, those big tournaments, because the bonuses help it. So, that bonus may help you get $1 million. But they exploit with both of the sites. There is a $10,000 difference in the salary cap, but you can do the math proportionally and see how much cheaper the player is. But yeah, you price shop players. So, if you're entering a tournament with the player, let's say, they're at the bottom of the barrel pricing, $3,000 for this wide receiver, and you think they're going to do very well, there's a good chance that he could be even cheaper on FanDuel, and that would be the situation where you enter your tournament on FanDuel instead. That way, you get more room to build out the rest of your roster. So that's definitely price shopping on players is a good idea for learning, how to put in the proper lineup.
All right. So let's get into the third quarter, man. We got cash games?
Yeah.
All contests.
Yeah, man.
All contest games, right? How to win more money, right? So I know, Myth, you were talking about pieces before, cash games, 50-50, double ups, and you kind of broke that down. Let's break it down a little bit more. What do you?
Yeah, so cash games are single entry games where really it's a much better odd, because this all goes back to your bankroll as well. These contests are a lot more stable, so if you're playing your money, you should be playing majority of your money towards cash games and then taking that shot in the dark with a different contest. That's the GPP that will be explained. But the cash games, your best bet of returning your money, you doubling it and bigger chance of winning. We're talking 50%. If you enter a contest with 100 people and you're in the top 50, then you get to get your money back. Now, they do take a small charge for the 50-50 contest, but winning is winning.
At the end of the day, that's what we hear.
Yeah. And then the double ups it's not quite as forgiving. It is only 42%, which is amazing odds on these games anyway compared to the rest of these tournaments. But yes, 42%, top 42% are able to double their money, exactly like it says. And basically, it's a really good chance to win. And while some people will call it a smaller pot, there are some of them that you can play for a lot more money than your standard $5 to $10 game.
Yep. The other cash game that's pretty popular is a head-to-head game. That you only playing another person. You're playing another person on the other side, and it's just you versus him, or you versus her, or you know what I mean, or you versus God. He knows. Yeah. Those games, yes. While you're, the odds are way in your favor. It's a 50-50 chance, right? You either win or lose. But again, you only can not even double your money because of the whatever system you're playing on, they'll take a rate. But it gives you a more opportunity to win. So for instance, if you put up $100, I put up $100, you win 190. You know what I mean? So that's how it works if you win. So those are easy to get in, and if you're a master at those, hey, you can throughout the season, you can you can make a lot of money. You're just not gonna retire on it, but you can double the money that you invest, your budget, right, that you put in. You know what I mean? That's the most you can do with those. You can, but it's easy to win. It's good to throw one of those head-to-head game every now and then. That way you don't feel like a total loser every week. You just have to hope that you beat the person on the other end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
a man with a shirt.
Right. So if you feel good, if you feel great about a lineup and you enter it in multiple contests, and then you're like you have some money in your budget left over, hey, throw it in on a head-to-head, and maybe that's the only game you win that week. That happened before. I mean, you just win it.
You just gotta go.
But if you can't beat a 50-50 odd, it's tough. That you should go ahead and just go back to the one.
What other payout structures are there?
Man. We discussed a couple payout structures, but I think the most important one people want to know about are those really large tournaments. The milli makers, those that pay out 300, 100,000. When you go to the payout structure and you see how this works, it would sometimes they advertise over 3.5 million in prizes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, first place is 1 million. Now, what do you do with the other 2.5?
2.5,
yeah. And by the time it gets down to it, you're ranked 30,000, but yet still collecting $1. Yeah. And that's less than you put into the money to get into the contest. Not only that, but those are also multi-entry contests. So some allow 20, some allow 150 entries. Just know majority of that is just an optimizer that work to put those lineups in, which really they're all computer generated. Some of these lineups that win never make sense because it takes Kanye level ability of assessment to put a lineup that's going to win.
That's what's up.
But yeah, so those contests are very top heavy. We talked about 50-50s having a 50% at the top. It's more closer to 15-20%. And anybody, the bottom 80%, don't get anything. And if you're not in the top 10, you're probably not at $100. And the way it just falls down after the first place, you got to be aware the difference between first and second could be two. If the contest pays $1 million, it could be like $900,000 of a difference. So it's not something that you want to enter and keep dumping money into it. It's a lot of risk involved.
Yeah. I mean, something to consider, and I think we missed this when we were doing the introduction to DFS. Something to consider whenever you're doing DFS, or when you're looking for a contest, or whenever you're playing. First and foremost, you got to look at the entry fee, right? You got to look at when you decide on your budget, you got to go back and whenever you enter in a contest, look at the entry fee. How much is it to enter that contest? How much debt is going to put in your budget, right? So if you have $100 budget, I wouldn't suggest you go ahead and put all $100 in one game. You know what I mean? You got to diversify. If you're, and then that's where you get the feel. You put some in some tournaments, you put some in some cash games, and that way you get the feel for what you like. If you like, and then you'll see what your tournament is. Another thing to consider when playing DFS is a salary cap. Like when you on DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever, you get a salary, you have to make sure you build your team within that salary. So just to give you an introduction to that. So if you have $60,000 to build your team, you're gonna have every player will have like a cost associated with them, and you have to build a full team within that budget. If you're over the team, you can't save the team. If you're under the team, that's fine. But you have to remember that. You have to remember your salary cap. The size of the field is important. That's another thing that's really important, man. Like, how many people are you playing against? You know what I mean? In those milli makers, you're playing against hundreds of thousands of people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But some of these contests, you look at some of these contests, you're playing against 1,000. You're playing against 100 people. You know what I mean? It all depends on. Always look at the size of the field, because that. If you're not a great player, I would say look at the lower size of the field, just to maximize your chance of winning. Generally, when the size of the field are small, it's either one of two things. One, the entry fee is huge, or if the size of the field is small, the prize is small. Like the winning prize is small, the prize pool is small. So that's and then are the people, the top three are the ones that are going to win this game. You know what I mean? So you have to look at a couple of things when you're looking at the size of the field. The prize pool too. You have to look at that. Like how much money you want to win. I look at the prize pool. If I'm looking at a game and the payout, and this is just me just trying to be greedy. If I'm looking at a team and the payout is $1,000, and my entry is $10, I was like, I'd rather, I'll put my $10 somewhere else where if I do win, especially if I feel good about the line, if I do win, I increase my money. You know what I mean? But I'm a cash game player. I like the single entry. That's just me. It reduces the sharks, the people that do this for a living by sitting in front of their computer 5 screens like it's a stock market and just like look at projections and look at historical data and analyzing historical data, what wide receiver cornerback matchup, defensive line versus running back. Like there are guys that are just literally out there doing all this analysis, and it reduces the chance of them being in your contest or entering multiple different lineups in your contest by doing those single entries. You also have to look at the payout schedule, man. Like how much money first place is going to get, like MITH covered earlier, like the milli, in a milli maker, the first guy gets $1 million, but you could be 200 and something place and you only get like $5. So you'd be like, what like, so you want to look at, you want to look at the payout structure a lot of times, so that way what you're striving for. Like if it's the top 50% that's going to get paid, all right, that, hey, I'm trying to get up there. I have 1,000 people in here. I'm trying to get above 150. You feel me? So it's a lot of things that you have to consider when you're building a lineup, picking a contest, and so forth. Yeah. So I just wanted to cover that. We didn't really go in depth of that in the beginning, but we were talking about this.
No worries. Really good information.
Yeah, man. Should you go after the big pots or should you go after the small pots then?
Yeah,
you want to take this one?
Yeah. If you always say big pots, he got an accountant.
Yeah.
You always gonna go with the big pots.
Oh my God, this guy's never gonna let the accountant go.
I'm not gonna do that at all. No. but in all seriousness, like individual person is thinking, when I see all these tournaments, when I see all these things that's popping up or contests, it's like, do I go for the big pot? Should I go for the short pot? Should I go for the short pot because I'm first starting, or should I trust my luck and go for the big pot and hopefully I win that?
Yeah. So before those decisions are made, you need to kind of understand what you're getting yourself into. Right. A big pot is big for a reason. Like Ren was covering, whenever there's a big pot, the number of entries in there is usually ridiculous. You're going after a big pot, you put in one lineup versus 30 other people who put in 150 lineups. They have a lot of a higher chance than you. Matter of fact, somebody in there might have the same exact lineup as you. So now you have no shot. So understand that that would be a situation where you just threw $9-10 away. So yes, big pot, but that's associated with that is a lot of issues, a lot of risk, and that's why the pot is big. Right. Now, what's considered a small pot is also going to depend on how much you're playing for. Yeah. I know, there are contests where you put in $1, you can turn that into $5, or you could put $5, turn it into $25. So it all depends on exactly what you're playing.
$25 or $2,500.
Nah. See, that would be the ideal contest.
Okay, we're just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Put it out there. All right.
So yeah, definitely understand what the contest is and the risk associated before deciding you're going to put it in. Because you could easily enter a 10-man competition and it costs you $500 to get in. So it's not always, looking at, how large the pot is, look at the entry fee and everything else around the contest.
All right. Well, let's go. Since we all, obviously we're talking about cash games right now, but what's building the lineup at the end of the day, right? How do you choose your lineup to go into this cash game that you want to get into? Or this contest that you want to get into? What's your recommendations? Are you looking at, if I'm going in there, I'm like, man, I'm looking at Julio, like Ren was talking about. You go in there thinking names. Is it good to think about names, or are you looking at that upside player? Are you, previewing, obviously week 1 is coming in, but if you start on week 2, are you previewing what happened in week 1 with the previous running back, wide receiver? Like, how do you build the lineup for this contest?
All right, you got to look at. That's where I'm talking about historical data, right? All right. So the thing about it is, if you look at like the first game coming up for the season, right? First game, nobody really knows what defense is going to present. But if you look at last year, you know what the good defenses are, right? You know that Tampa Bay was a good defense. Colts. The Dolphins look fine. You know what I mean? Like Steelers, like these,
Washington,
Browns, the Rams, Washington. You know that these defenses last year was great. And if you look at what they did in the drafts and in the offseason, you see that beefing up that defense. You may not want to pick players going up against these defenses in your first go around, or you know what I mean? So that way so when you're picking your plays, you look at, all right, what defenses has opportunities, right? What defenses are not good, right? And they didn't do anything in the offseason to help themselves. So you look at that, you pick players from those teams going up against those defenses, and you will have success for the first game. And throughout the season, that's what you have to do. You have to look at matchups. You have to look at, all right, I'm picking wide receivers, right? I have a certain amount of wide receivers that I have to start. I'm looking at wide receivers. All right, who has the best cornerback matchups, right? Who's going to get the volume, right? And then that's where you have to know your platform. Like, it's a PPR versus a half-point PPR, FanDuel versus DraftKings. If you're saying like, hey, somebody like Hopkins is going to get peppered with targets, right? So he's probably better to play on a DraftKings because if he gets 9 catches, that's 9 points right off the rip. If he gets 100 yards, that's another 3 points. That's 12 without his actual production. You feel me? So you have to take those things into consideration.
So like for week 1, right? Dolphins play New England, right? So N'Keal Harry is not a receiver that I would want to go against.
All right, let's give some validity. Let's give some validity to the name. All right, N'Keal Harry was, let's say Meyer, right? let's pick somebody that's probody gonna be a little bit better than you know what I mean, like,
or on the team, or on the team.
It's nice. That's on the team, right. Like, so right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't want to look at, like, so that the corners on the Dolphins are tough. Xavier. Like you don't want players to go up unless you have like an elite wide receiver, which maybe even then I'm not even messing with them. But you don't want any wide receiver going up against the Dolphins. So right there, I'm not picking any wide receivers on any teams going up against the Dolphins. Right, that right there, I'm cutting them off. Right, and then you look at the teams that have poor corner plays. Right, that people are putting up points on and all that stuff. Those are the teams that you want to target. You want to look at the teams that's going up against those, and then those are probably your lineups that you're trying to build. So it's a lot of things that you have to look at when building a lineup. You have to really analyze, like the schemes. You got to analyze the lines. You got to analyze the opponents, the defenses. What is the defense's strength, right? Like Tampa Bay last year, you couldn't run on Tampa Bay last year. So I'm not picking any running back. I don't care who you were. I'm not putting a running back that's going up against Tampa Bay defense in my DFS lineup because that's just a waste of money. Well, number one, if you have an Alvin Kamara going up against them, he's going to price high. That's number one. And then he's going up against a tough defense. That's just a lose-lose situation. So why would I pay for that? You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that you have to look at.
Now, what do you think about that too, MITH?
Yeah, on a general standpoint, comparing cash games and GPPs, cash games are going to be, so cash games are going to be your safe games. So when you build a lineup, you want to be on the safer side. So players like Tyler Boyd all of a sudden stick out for their pricing. Jarvis Landry sticks out for pricing. You look at those players because they are almost guaranteed to have the production because at the end of the day, you just want to score enough points to be in that top 50%. Right. On GPPs, your lineup building has got to go. There's so many different schools of thought on that. They say go contrarian, leave a little bit of your budget behind, and that number changes from analyst to analyst. And at the end of the day, the goal is to be as different as possible. So you're going to be throwing some shots in the dark. And sometimes it's just the lineup that ends up winning. But the only thing between the two that I should say, defense doesn't matter. There'd be a lot of weeks that you do pay up for a defense and DFS, and it does not deliver. So the team that gets the random touchdown, that's the team of the weekend. Good luck predicting that. But as far as the lineup building is concerned between the two, you really want to go as contrarian as possible with GPP.
Let's talk about GPP, and then we can get back into the lineups. Let's talk about GPP and tournaments and single and multi entries. What are the differences in them? And then we can kind of break down the lineups in comparison to GPP and cash. So what's the difference between the GPP with single and multi entries?
So for me, all right, so when I'm playing a GPP contest, right, I always have one or two players that is just something that's low owned and not on a lot of people's radar. And the reason for that, because you're trying to build lineups that's different, especially in multi-entries. This is where you take chances, upside guys. Like you're looking at upside guys a lot, especially like in the wide receivers, because I feel like you were able to make the difference at wide receiver more than any other position. So when you're looking at a multi-entry GPP lineup, you're looking at wide receivers with a lot of upside, right? Even running backs with a lot of upside. A running back on DraftKings that's going to catch a lot of passes. You know what I mean? That based on like McKissick last year was fire. You know what I mean? Even though he's not the greatest of running back per se, he's not he's not Gibson that's on the same team and stuff like that. But he offers a lot because he was getting 9, 10, 12 targets a game. So if he's getting that kind of targets a game and catching 9, I look at that as on DraftKings like, look, this guy right here has 9 points before his real production comes into play.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So you have to look at stuff like that. Who is going to make a difference? Like you you look at teams like you're saying, like Jonathan People-Jones. If he's playing, like you're gonna say, "Yo, I feel like he's gonna get that one long arm touchdown, right?" And maybe he works out. You see how everybody's on Callaway right now. Everybody's on Callaway. Nobody's on Traquan. If James Winston is named as a starter, Traquan Smith could be that your GPP play because he's like a shot kind of like a shot receiver, and James can put the ball down the field. So he could be a great like GPP play for a week because he will set while everybody will be on Callaway. He will set your lineup different from everybody else, and he could win you that tournament.
He's a sleeper,
right?
You can probably get some.
You look for those sleepers on the multi entry. On the single entry GPP, you kind of do the same thing, but you were trying to look like a high. You're not taking as much of a risk or much of a chance on the single entry. Yeah, you're looking for an upside guy, but that upside guy he's going to perform. You know what I mean? But you're just going to perform above his ceiling or close. You know, his ceiling's going to move higher. You're saying in that single entry.
What do you say, Myth?
Yeah, like Ren just said, GPP, to clarify, guaranteed price pool. Doesn't matter how many entries there are, the contest will run and it will have a payout. So if we all can collectively let me be the only entry into the Millie Maker, that would be amazing. Well, yeah, like Ren was saying, the guaranteed price pool with the single entry, you have to be contrarian and pick that player that stands out. But really, the goal is to pick a player that's going to severely outperform their pricing. That could be at the low end. That could also be at the top end.
Yeah.
If you're paying up for Tyreek Hill to be a cornerstone of your team, and he costs $8,000, but the most expensive receiver is $10,000. The guy goes for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Do you care that he was $8,000? You don't, because he severely outperformed the cost it did to have him in your lineup. And, you know, getting those things to combine with having a player at the lower end that has he doesn't even have to go off. He just has to get you 18, 20 points because Tyreek Hill already did majority of the legwork. If you get that to happen, then, you know, that's a team that's going to compete in the single entry. Mm-hmm. You just have to be crazy in the multi-entry. If you're going to put in one lineup, you might as well put in a guy with a torn ACL because that guy might come suit up that game and play. And those are the guys.
And that's the way you win. Yeah. That is really
the way you win. And you know, you'll see these games where Scotty Miller has not played in 5 weeks, and he ends up winning somebody several hundreds of thousands.
Pops up out of nowhere and just makes these plays.
Low ownership, high potential.
How do you handle the bankroll management, I guess, at the end of the day in GPP? Is there a big difference from cash, or it's the same?
You want to play less money into a GPP because it is a higher risk contest, and if you make majority of your budget out like that, you will run out of money before the season is over because you're throwing money into a bottomless pit. So you want your cash games. If you're paying 70-80% of that of your bankroll in cash games, you're more likely to win, and that's going to replenish and give you money so you can play in the GPPs. But do not have majority of your money going towards something that has a lower chance of winning.
So ultimately, you want to say you want your budget to be different from a regular cash games and GPP. And with GPP, you want to increase your budget more than what it needs to be because you're going to be spending a lot more.
It's a lot more risk too, so be careful with that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. What are the structural payouts in GPP?
We covered it briefly, but the way they have payouts, actually, we can pull up a live contest right now. So
of course, we've got a live contest rolling, yo. Dude, you still drinking that Malta?
Yes, sir. I apologize. I don't. Yeah, I don't drink alcohol, so that's I'm drinking a Malta. That's
right.
fine.
That's
But is that such a bad thing?
No, not at
Ma-
all. Not at all.
Malta and water.
Yeah, I knew you back on tea now, so I just wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure if it was tea or Malta.
Keep it up. One night I'll come on here with a coffee, a latte, a venti latte, or something like that.
A cucumber latte.
Yeah. Something just out of the ordinary.
So yeah, what's the payout structures? I mean, is it?
Okay.
We kind of briefly talked about it. So you going live? Right
I pulled up a live contest here. Now this isn't your typical contest, but it's the easiest to kind of help. So this is a 370-man contest, $3,000 entry, and it's $200,000 to first place. So you're playing $3,000 against 370 people to get $200,000. Not bad.
Yeah.
First place, $200,000. Second place, $125,000. And third place, $75,000. Fourth place, $50,000. Fifth place, $40,000. Sixth place, $30,000. And then, of course, it goes down from there where, it starts being arranged. So 11th through 13th would get $15,000.
Okay.
Now, the biggest issue with these payout structures is first place and sixth place could be 0.2 points apart. Does 0.2 points mean your lineup is worth $170,000 less?
No, but you'll see that payout structure drop tremendously as a result, and if you look at, and that's the other thing when you compare cash games to GPPs, is that you see how he just went over the payout structure, and he found a low man contest, meaning a low participant contest of 300 and change. But you have these GPPs that's like 200,000 people, right, entering. Like the Millie Maker is like 200 and roughly 300 plus people entering this, right? You win $1 million in first place, but you can enter a contest like this one he just mentioned. If it's a single entry per se, I'm cool with 250. And you may, to be honest with you, you may enter that GPP, that Millie Maker, and your entire lineup score like 220 points, right, total, and you win nothing. You win nothing. But when you go to the contest MITH is talking about, where it's only 300 people, right, that would have won you that contest $250,000.
Right.
Yep.
You feel me? So that's the other thing that you have to consider. Like, yeah, I didn't make $1 million, but you made $250,000 with the same exact lineup that you entered that you didn't win. Crap.
Gotcha.
Yep. Right place, right time matters.
Yeah. Right, so choosing contests are important. Don't look at the money payouts per se. Look at the possibility of winning, and how because that is key too. Like, the less people you have in contests, it's the easier way to win money. And at the end of the day, once you're winning money, it's a W. A W is a W. It's a W. It's a W. You feel me? So take your winnings. You may not retire off that winning, but you never know when your day will come. Build your pot.
And we're going back. Let's go back to lineup building on both structures here. Does it make sense to pick, example, a quarterback and a running back from the same team, or a quarterback and a receiver in the same team? Does it make sense to put two guys in the same squad on your team?
I have my philosophy about this, but I'll let you go.
Yeah, my philosophy. So there is this trend. They call it stacking, which is typically a quarterback and a wide receiver. However, a quarterback and a running back, or a running back and a wide receiver, that's negative correlation. So that's not giving your team the best upside. If the quarterback is having a really good game, there's a good chance that running back is not. and vice versa. So you want to make sure that if you are going to stack to try to get the upside and double points, do not do quarterback to running back, because that would be a situation where it really just puts you back at flat zero. And the stacking, stacking is it's a fantasy that people believe works, but may not always actually work, because you can pair up Deontay Johnson and and Big Ben, but
Deontay don't catch.
Yeah, and
don't do that. So I'm saying, like, let's say example, like, we got Patrick Mahomes, right? Craziest offense, right? So example would be stacking would be with Patrick, Tyreek Hill,
Travis Kelce,
or even Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Clyde Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
I mean, I don't think you don't have enough money, right? If you drop them three on there, you be broke as I don't know what. But
no, you always have enough money. The rest of the team is going to suffer, but you have.
But
you always have enough money to put three studs, but what you're going to have for the remainder of the team, that's where it's going to hurt.
Yeah,
that's gonna be something.
But you don't want to put all the eggs in one basket, because say we just saw Mahomes go out and have a terrible game against the Cardinals. What if you had that whole offense in your lineup?
And that's what I'm saying.
You have no chance of winning.
Winning, right. So you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful with how you stack. My philosophy on as it pertains to your question, I stack in GPP. I don't stack in cash.
Okay.
That's just my philosophy. I stack in GPP because I can get that double touchdown. And when I say stack, I'm talking about a quarterback wide receiver. As MITH says, a quarterback, running back, or a running back wide receiver, those are negative correlations. So if the running back is scoring a touchdown, rushing in a touchdown, it's taken away from the quarterback scoring point. Versus if you have a quarterback and a wide receiver, if the wide receiver is scoring a touchdown, most likely both people are getting points for that. You're getting 4 points for the passing touchdown, and you're getting 6 points for that touchdown. So that's 10 points plus yardage. You know what I mean? So, so on GPP, I tend to stack a lot more because I want that double point, and that give me the potential of leapfrogging whoever ahead of me. Getting that double point. Versus in a cash game, I want the best player within my budget range, like within my price point. I just want the best player available in my price point with the best matchup and so forth. That's all.
Okay. All right. What about players with injuries, with injury risks? Like week one, we got, we can talk about Barkley. We never know what's happening right now. But week one, if Barkley is out, or what we don't know, is that, say if it's a game time decision, is that something like, I'm going to add him in there and just hope? Or is it something that you don't touch?
Cash game, I don't mess with injured players. I will dabble on GPPs with an injured player if I feel like an injured player is a game time decision, but that injured player would have like a killer matchup and could be a smash. I'll gamble on a player like that in the GPP, because that, so a couple of things. A lot of people are going to be stay away from that player, right? In the GPP, in any contest, a lot of people are going to stay away from that player. So that's going to be a less ownership, right? So more chances for me to leapfrog people ahead of me. And if that player actually play and perform out of their mind, that could be a contest winner right there.
Yep, definitely.
Now, MITH, there's games, right? Every week we're looking at it. Do you recommend getting players from big games? I know we talked about KC stacking and all that, but like last year when KC played the Rams, I believe at that time, that was a showcase of just passing and yards and yards.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you don't expect it to be every week, but is it something that you look at, that you think about? It's like, this is going to be this is that amazing game that's going to happen when they're just going to be passing the ball and both defenses suck.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that you do your own analysis on that. I mean, that definitely is part of building your lineup. Obviously, you want players from the biggest game with the worst defense. So, putting that together. And, that kills a lot of people because last year, a lot of those games were at the 4 p.m. block of games. So the 1 p.m. guys are thinking, yes, I'm about to cash in. I'm winning the contest.
Right.
And then it comes in and, Tyreek Hill wrecks your day. Just one guy. So,
man.
You want to be invested in those big players and big games. But also you need to understand if you're playing a GPP, that's a situation where everybody has the same player, and that's what we call chalk. And honestly, it may not be an issue with using chalk because that's you basically saying if we both have the same player, you don't have an advantage over me. Yeah. So sometimes chalk is good if everyone picks the right player, but that thing changes throughout. Going chalk, big players in big games, players that don't have performance anxiety too, because we all know Mark Andrews cannot play prime time.
No, he cannot. Yo, so we're getting down to nitty gritty. The show's about to end right now, man. And I had one more question for you guys, and just and obviously we're gonna be going. We're gonna have the DFS show, and so we're gonna be going more into detail in the future, but. We kind of broke down things, what to pay attention to, but what are the other key points? What are the other key things that, even now just having this, conversation with this show, what are the things that you would tell people to actually pay attention to when getting into the DFS or just preparing for the week?
For me, this is what I would suggest for a new player. Stick to single entries. Your chances of winning is greater. Stick to cash games until you fully understand how it all works, how to build a lineup within budget, get the players that you're high on, and so forth. Like that's where I would say to start. If you want to throw $10 in a million maker for the first time, that's fine. That is fine, but understand that you're competing against 300 plus people that charts that has 150 lineups in this thing. Right. So just understand that and start small. Understand the entire platform. Understand the scoring system of the platform. Know what you're playing for. Don't play to get rich, like the get rich quick. Start small, man. Try to see if you can play the 50-50, double up your money, all that stuff. That's where until you get like a real good understanding of the game. That's my advice to most people.
All right. What about you? MITH, the legend.
Yeah. I got a couple suggestions that's based on, as long as you already understand football, you play fantasy football, then you understand the general concept of, what players and what they do. But if you're going to sign up and venture into here, please use a promo code. Please do that because you want to get that little boost to start.
That extra money. I agree with that.
Yeah. And as far as the week is concerned, try to get in your cash games early. DraftKings is notorious for having the 50-50s just disappear by like Thursday. So make sure you get into those contests early because they fill up for a reason. They're very profitable. At least the people who are good. Yeah.
Oh, I have one more point when you're finished.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you get in early as well, depending on the contest, if you really like it, you can reserve the contest. You put in your money and then you fill in the lineup whenever you get a chance, probably before kickoff. And there's really free practice out there. If you don't want to throw your money out there into those GPPs, Sam Adams, Miller Lite, they always do free contests. It's unlimited entries, but you get the practice to kind of see how close you can get. Prize is usually like $1,000. Hey, free chance at $1,000. Why not? So those are the things. And, as you understand the platform more, then you'll be able to put together a plan to actually get that $1 million.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to, you mentioned it, but in regards to getting into contests early, as you mentioned, the best way to get into contests, come Tuesday, Wednesday, when the contests are out, look at the contest, see which one you like, reserve your spot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Reserve your spot, because that's the only way you're going to get into it. Because, as Mitch says, come Thursday before that Thursday night game, most of these contests are already full, and you're missing out on the better ones. You're missing out on the nice single entry ones, low dollar cost, low participant, but the payout is decent, and you miss out on most of those. So be mindful of that. Like, reserve your spot so you get in and so forth. And, manage your risk, man. Manage your risk.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. That's going to be it. Shout outs?
Shout out to
black V-neck on. Shout out to
I know. My shout out is this weekend, man. This weekend I'm having a cookout. Welcome everybody. I already sent the flyer out to most people. Just show up. Gonna have some fun, have some drinks, food. What I mean? So just come to.
Bontas and cucumbers. Shout out.
There you go.
Man, you're trying to end the show on a bad note.
You act like it's Craigslist. You act like it's Craigslist.
Nah, shout out to football season, man. Like, we sit here all year just itching for this moment.
Yeah.
And it's
man, it's so gratifying. Like, dude, I can't wait. NFF draft is this Saturday. When I say I have zero plans throughout the day, I'm not running errands. I'm not doing any, do not call me. Do not talk to me.
Mindsets on
until after this draft. The NFL draft.
The woo method. This is the woo method.
I'm doing the woo method this time. But man, NFL draft is the draft I look forward to. I look forward to this draft a lot. Last year I got burned by the cuts. This year I'm gonna try to manage that bad boy.
We know about cuts, bro.
Oh man, because remember, every team has 80 players right now. They got to get down to 53-man roster. Be careful. I can only say be careful, fellas.
Monday, so.
And they're not doing it until Monday, so be careful, fellas. There's a lot of people, and there's a cost for waivers in the NFL. There is a cost, so you better. You may think that you're taking a good shot at an upside guy, but you ended up that upside guy didn't get cut, and then you ended up using a waiver pickup, and then you're like,
but man,
so be careful.
Before we end the show, man, it would have been great to have Craig on in the NFF, though, man. That would have been a lot of money. Yo, so that's gonna be it for us, man. Thank you for listening to Locker Code with C Red and PJ, and also our boy MITH on the show. Once again, we're gonna be doing a DFS show, so MITH is literally on the Locker Code squad now for DFS side of the world. You know what I mean? So be sure to check us out on Lockercode.com for all your fantasy needs, sit and starts, waiver wire pickups, matchup news, and more. Check us out on Lockercode Twitter, Lockercode Podcast, Instagram. Lockercode Facebook, and Lockercode Podcast on YouTube. Here we are.